There.
You got any funny or crazy Uber stories of your own?
Just that a guy passed out on me. Like I was on a uphill, like a ramp onto a freeway or something, and the guy like literally like, and then like passed out. And so I jumped like forward and put it into park. And I was like, "Are you okay? Wait, what's going on?" Or I tried to talk to him, and then like 30 minutes later, he just 30 seconds later, he just sort of woke up. Like, and then started driving again. I was like, whoa. And he dropped me off at home and kept driving.
Uber?
Yeah, Uber.
First of all, congrats on the movie.
Thank you.
You made me laugh a lot, and I believe you made at least 5 people laugh.
I hope
No,
so.
it played really well. Talk a little bit about the genesis. How did this thing land in your lap? How did it come together?
Sure. It started around summer of 2016. I'd been looking to make action comedy. I really loved the genre. And the script was sent to me. I read it and just felt like, yeah, this is a great sort of blueprint to work off of in terms of it had the right elements of action. It had 2 leads characters that were sort of at odds, had great tension to it in that sense. And then started doing rewrites and working with Fox on it. And Fox, you cannot believe how supportive they were about making the film with this tone. And we all sort of shared we all wanted to make the same film, from the screenwriter to me to Fox to the producers. And then we got Camille and Dave, and then it took off. As soon as we put those 2 together, we realized that we had a great chemistry with our 2 leads, and it just sort of catapulted from there.
What's interesting, and I think maybe some people don't realize, is sometimes you sign on to a project and you think you're making one movie, and then all of a sudden the studio and everyone else decides it's going to be a different movie.
Yeah. They lose their guts for sure on that sense, and for this it was never like that. They can see that tonally they wanted to make something. I find the action comedy is pretty maligned as a genre, and they wanted to bring back sort of the grit and make it a little more visceral, a little bit more grounded. So that's what we tried to do with the film.
Before shooting begins, are you rewatching like Lethal Weapon and other buddy cop movies?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's like in the writing process and in developing it and workshopping it. That's more of it. And then I really went back and looked a lot at LA films that were shot in LA, which I think. It's just such a cinematic city, and it has such nice colors to it, and it has such nice light to it that that I looked at films like To Live and Die in L.A. or 52 Pickup. Heat is another example, or what's the one? King Kong of the World. I'm forgetting. Training Day. Films like that really captured L.A. for what it is, and really embraced the city. And ironically, we shot most of this in Atlanta. But then they allowed us to shoot, but they allowed me to shoot like 6 days in LA, which was great. Like I'm not a big fan of sort of green screen work, and especially in a film that has a ton of car work. I really tried to avoid it as much as we can. I think we had 1 LED sort of panel day, and then they gave me 5 or 6 days to shoot in LA, which was great. So we tried to embrace the city and everything that it has.
Did you ask the cast to watch anything prior to filming?
Yeah, for sure. I looked 48 Hours for Dave for sure was a I thought Nick Nolte's character in that would be a good sort of just a good influence on him. Not to copy it exactly. That film is, I love that film, but it's not that politically correct these days. So I thought he should sort of maybe but take away that. Just how like his back's always hurting Nick Nolte, and he's always sort of pissed off, and I just thought that was a good sort of starting point for him. And then Camille, I thought Charles Grodin in Midnight Run was a great reference point for him compared to Robert De Niro in that film. So that was sort of those were sort of the 2 big performances I asked him to look at for sure.
So I'm curious, what is it like with Camille and Dave? When did you know that their chemistry was going to really work? And what is it like the night before they're going to meet, and you're like, God, I hope this works?
I was. It's funny. It was a chemistry read where they were both interested, and we brought them into the studio. But the funny thing was, I was shooting something. So I literally shot till 5 a.m. and then went home and slept for 2 hours, and then woke up and got them at 9 a.m. And I think the same thing for Dave and Camille. Everybody was super busy, but we all sort of collided at 9 a.m. on the Fox lot, and then they walked in, and within a minute of putting them in front of a lens to having them share a lens, you just sort of knew it was there and it was going to work and they were going to be great. It's like that with casting. The one piece of advice I got many years ago was like, it never gets better. It's like what you see is what you get with actors, and and the only exception to that rule for me has been with kid actors, where you can sort of push them a little bit more, and it's a good thing to keep in the back of your mind, because when it's there, and it's going to be awesome. And once you see it, so when you don't see that as a director, you should be very wary of having optimism in that sense. But with these guys, it was very clear, and as soon as I saw them, I was like, yeah, this is great, this is perfect, and it was very quick.
During pre-production and during that, like, say, first table read, how did things shift in terms of the dialogue or anything based on the voices you now have as these characters?
Well, one of the nice things about working with Camille is that he's a very gifted, along with him and his wife Emily, are very gifted screenwriters. So when you cast Camille, once he's in, and he wants to make it great, and he's in it to win it, and he's in it to make a great film. So he was amazing. We would do table reads. We would do sort of round tables with other writers, and he would be. He was great. He sort of fleshed out a lot of the masculinity parts to the film that were sort of there, but he sort of highlighted them and was fantastic in that sense about bringing it out. He's very smart, obviously very funny, great actor, but he's also a great person and just wants to make a great film, and he's fantastic to collaborate with. Same thing with Dave.
First day of filming, or maybe the day before filming begins.
Yep.
What are you most nervous about to try to pull off on the shoot?
Atlanta for LA probably would be the first thing. I don't know. I mean, you're always nervous about stuff. I can't remember what would be the most nervous I was. Probably just hoping that it would that they would gel. You know what I mean? Like you think it's going to be good. You've done the math. Everything's been. You like these two guys, but just hoping that. You don't really know them at that point. Like, we're friends now, but when you first start shooting, and I can't stand assholes on set, and you just hope that they're not assholes and they're great, and they weren't, and they were fantastic. You never know when you're going in, but they were, and to me that sort of that sort of seeps into the footage a lot when everybody sort of really has got a positive attitude on set and trying to make a great film, and I hope that shows in the movie.
You open the film with this great action set piece. Yeah. Talk a little bit about filming that thing and why you wanted to start the movie off with that kind of moment.
Yeah, like I said, I think the genre's been a little maligned, and I wanted to sort of set the tone very early and just sort of say this is going to be a film that isn't going to pull punches. We also had Eco, which is a massive asset to have, who's an incredible fight choreographer and performer as well. So I just wanted something that felt visceral, that felt sloppy and felt real, and didn't feel too staged, but felt like a real fight. And it's the idea of putting like sort of a bull against like a super fast fighter, and just seeing how that would feel, and where it doesn't feel too choreographed, but it feels authentic. And it's like a super fast fighter against a big, strong bull of a man, and see what happens with that sort of fight.
I don't want to give away a spoiler because
we've all seen the movie.
Well, there's some people who are going to watch this thing on the what we call the internet.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
Right. So, but there's something in the beginning of the fight where Dave throws something. And I love that bit.
Oh, yeah.
So I don't want to, exactly. But I love it because it's like a logical moment. Like the fight scene plays out like with logic. So whose idea was it to do that?
That would be mine. It was, it's just this idea of people grabbing what they can in the fight and thinking through. We obviously made a rubber safe and stuff like that. But yeah, it's this idea of just trying to make it feel sloppy and real, but also trying to incorporate mistakes into the fight and try to infuse comedy into the fight through sort of mistakes or keeping people on their toes.
How long was your shooting schedule?
It was good. I mean, you never have enough time, for sure, but I think the line producer on the last day said day 46 of 45 or something. So,
so
they were good. Yeah, we were fortunate. What was nice about this shooting in Atlanta was that I was able to shoot sort of 80% of the film, and then we had these 5 additional days. Any of the daytime driving stuff is shot in LA, so I was able to see a cut of the film before we put that stuff in. And then actually we cut out a couple scenes of them driving around in the day that we shot later, that we just didn't need. That was just exposition and all stuff that everybody already knew and felt boring.
This actually leads me, I'm fascinated by the editing process.
Sure.
Because it's the final rewrite.
Yep.
When you talk about that first day you go in the editing room, you see that rough cut or that first cut, you were thinking...
I'm thinking fantastic. I started as an editor, and I try to implore editors I work with to deliver tight editor cuts. I'm not interested in seeing a 3-hour cut of my film by any means. And like I said, like we still had 20% of the film out of the film at that point. So I saw a cut that was really, really tight for an editor's cut, and I felt like we had the story. And we did no reshoots on this film. We didn't have to pick up anything, which is really rare. So I felt like the work we'd done on the script sort of paid off in the edit suite. And then the only thing we sort of cut was a lot of the stuff that we had shot at driving around LA.
So fans should not look for like the extended cut.
There's extended cuts of alts, which are really funny. I use a lot of improvisation when I make films, and we have on-set writers who provide alts, and we try to throw it out, and I try to encourage people or the actors to improvise as much as they can, and you kind of design the production to make sure that you buy yourself that time on set, because many times you can get railroaded by a DOP or somebody that eats up all that time lighting or doing stuff, which to me is, the film's got to look good. Everybody has their time to do their job, but at the end of the day, the most important thing is the time on the set with the actors and letting them be funny and letting them inject their own personality and their own humor into the film. So yeah, we were allowed to do that, it was. I think that stuff's so important to making the film funny and giving it a ton of energy.
It's interesting. I've spoken to a few filmmakers who say that they will not take like the crane. They will look at everything and what can they take out to give themselves that extra day on set or that extra 2 days on set.
I mean it's the your biggest currency is time on a film set. So my big thing is to be prepped as much as possible and to make sure you know exactly what you're doing going in and have a plan so you can go off of it. And so you're not sitting on set going, oh, what are we going to shoot next, or how are we going to do this, and just wasting time, because that's time that you could have with your actors. It's so important to me, that time with those guys, to let them improvise. It's everything.
Talk a little bit about the test screening process. What did you learn from test screening, and what is it like? Because you have such a gifted improviser. I'm curious, when you have all those alt versions, and I'm sure each one is so funny, what is it like trying to figure out which one to use? Yeah,
it's an interesting process. When you see the DVD, there's some really funny lines that are in there, but you have to weigh it against how succinct they are and how much they slow down the scene. There's so much that you have to sort of consider. Like, something on its own might be very funny, and when you see the marketing for the film, the marketing department gets all the dailies, and they use some of the alts, and it's like you sometimes you second guess yourself, and then you're like, no, it would never work in the entire film. It would slow it down, or it would feel out of tone with the rest of the movie. Sorry, what was your original question?
The test screening process.
The test screening process. Yeah, I've learned the hard way. I've made other studio films where the test screening has been terrible. So I've learned to how important that first test screening is. So I try to be really tough on the film and get it into shape before that very first test screening, because that first test screening can dictate everything. And I've had.
Can I ask real quick?
Yeah, sure.
Are you willing to share the number you scored on the first test screening?
Yeah, 92, I think.
That's fucking
great.
Great.
It's great. So, yeah, so we, and it's about being tough on your movie and about getting rid of the fat and trimming it and making sure the story flows. And that's kind of my MO when I'm making a film, because if you don't, there's going to be a shitty score, and then you're going to have to climb back on that. And I've had it either way, and the other way is not pretty. Like, you want to be tough on your own movie for sure.
I think for people that don't realize with the test screening process, you want to explain what it is for people that actually don't know?
Sure. Yeah, you recruit an audience like around a theater this size, maybe a little bit bigger, about 300 people. They sort of pull people from malls and pull people in. There's a whole separate company that does it, and then they score the film. And I think it's like, would you give this film an excellent or very good? And if you the score, there's a few more things, but those are the top two boxes. Sure. So they score it based on whether or not you got an excellent or very good. So out of 300 people, you'd have to get whatever it is of excellent or very good to make a 90 or whatever it is, which is normally the number people relax at. So it's a high bar, but it's I think making a comedy, it's so important to screen the film and to check the rhythm of the film and whether or not people are laughing. And I guess your original question is, with all those alts, how do you do it? You flip stuff in and out. I mean, the first screening, it's your best guess, and you've had a few friends and family screening, and I try to get like 50 to 100 people in, just to sort of to give it a little bit more, to test it out a little bit more. But then many times you'll find some gems here and there, but many times your first instincts are correct.
Did you make any changes as a result of the test screening process or in the editing room that surprised you?
Jeez, that's a good question. Yeah, I can't remember specifically. It's such there's a lot of sort of changes that you do, but yeah, for sure. You notice when jokes don't work, for sure. And I find that any joke that doesn't work sort of costs you two that do work, so you try to weed those out as much as possible.
Is there like a continuity error that is still bothering you at this moment?
I don't give a shit about continuity. I couldn't give one rat's ass about whether or not a phone is in somebody's hand or what. I couldn't give a shit about that stuff. So no, I don't care.
I don't know if you've made that clear enough.
No, I mean, you find like people like I started as an editor, and like people obsess about that stuff, and like I don't. Good for you if you notice. But I couldn't give a shit about it, unless it's like super glaring or whatever. But you have people that are like crazy about it on set. Like, I specifically weed out continuity people based on how much they. To me, a continuity person is a conduit between the set and the editor, and is also like somebody who should care about story and about whether or not you're getting your shots. And she should not, or he should not, worry about whether or not somebody has a beer bottle in the right hand, because nobody cares.
I was going to make a joke about the internet, but I'm going to leave it there and say one of the things is, so you had you said 46 day.
Yeah.
You have a lot of action in this.
Yeah.
You have gunfire. You have a lot of stuff. How the F did you film all that in 45 days?
Because I'm organized. Because you prep. You make your film in prep, and you figure out what you need to do. You have a great team around you. You have the DOP I worked with, Bobby Shore, I've made 3 films and a TV series with. So, we have a shorthand, and we literally meet every day at 7 a.m. in prep, and we shot list, and our AD is there, and we talk about it, and we figure it out. And you got to prep. The prep is everything to me as a director. If you don't have time to prep, you're not going to make a very good film, in my opinion.
I think you wrapped on this almost a year ago to the day.
Yeah, I think you're right, actually.
And I'm just curious, what the hell has it been like for you? Because this is a really good movie. I know you want people to see it. What's it been like sort of sitting there waiting for this thing to come out?
Well, 10 months of that is editing, so that takes up a lot of your time. But yeah, I mean, you screen it to people, you get people's reactions and stuff like that, so you get a little bit of that gratification for sure. But I'm excited for people to see it. I've shot another film since then, so I've been busy doing other stuff. But Yeah, no, I love making movies, and I'm excited for people to see this film. So it's you just sort of put your nose to the grindstone and cut the fuck out of it.
I know that there must be at least one or two questions in here. Hold on, we got one right here.
Yeah,
I really love the movie. It's great. And one of the things is, like, there's a lot of actors in this business that come from other industries, like Dave Bautista. And we've seen him as Drax the Destroyer in Guardians, and he played Jinx in the Bond movies. But, like, when you watch his interviews, like, he really gives a shit about acting. Like, he actually wants to be an actor's actor. And he said it multiple times. And when you watch his movies, and as they've gotten better and better, his performances have gotten better and better. And you really see that with the mixture of the comedy, but especially in the emotion towards the end of the movie. So what the hell is it like working with a guy that really gives a shit? I mean, like, he's got on record saying, like, he will do as many takes until he thinks it's right, and he got it. So what's it like working with someone that's just passionate, bro?
It's the best case scenario. I mean, it's exactly what you want. Like, I'm as passionate, and you want somebody who cares. Like, the worst is somebody who's just in it to collect the paycheck. And Dave is, as you appear, he's a very genuine guy and a very gifted actor. And he just really wants to be directed and wants to make the best possible film. So everything. He's just a genuine guy and he's an old soul, you know, and I think that, you know, when I saw what he did in Blade Runner, I was like, this guy has an incredible amount of presence and can say a lot without doing a lot, which is kind of what you want with this part, you know. So absolute joy to work with. I would love to work with him again.
Right there.
How early in the process was Uber involved, and did you have to sort of deal with them in any way? Because I noticed there was never like a shot of like the Uber app logo or like the interface or anything.
Yeah, no, Uber, like we're getting a little bit of like, this is an Uber ad, and it's not. We had no corporate sponsorship, and it's like Kleenex. It's just so commonly used right now that you can use it as long as you don't defame the product and you use it accurately. So and anybody who's making films, you can do that with any product as long as, and please don't quote me on this, but you can't. It's all fair game as long as it's used properly and there's no defamation of the product.
Was there any debate between Uber and Lyft, or was it always Uber?
Always Uber. I don't know why. It's just Stuber. It just was always Uber.
Sure.
Yeah.
I see right there. Yeah.
So I grew up in these web movies, so thank you for this. And I've
me
always
too.
wanted to see Jackie Chan fight at Home Depot. What was the process of blocking out the action versus the comedy in such a rich playground for both? Like, did you cut out some action in favor of comedy and vice versa? Like, how did you make that all? Because the balance of that scene is magnificent.
No, it's more in the writing process where you try to inject the comedy into the action. And in terms of blocking it out, I don't overcover it. I try to just do it. I try to do it just sort of A to B, B to C, C to D, and not because you get like we had 46 days, but we don't have a ton of time. You know what I mean? It's not $100 million film, so I think it's a giant waste of time to sort of reset and be and sort of like, oh, let's shoot it from 3 other angles from another thing. It's part of the prep process where you say, okay, how are we going to shoot this little section? And we know exactly how we're going to shoot it, so we just sort of, you know, go through the stunt. So we're not resetting the story and redoing everything and just going piece by piece, and trying to do it in order as much as possible. And then the comedy, it's partly in the dialogue, it's partly, we try to inject a lot of mistakes into the action, which is sort of a Shane Black thing, and just embrace surprising people with stuff that you think is going to go one way, but try to go the other way with it.
Right here.
I just wanted to know, like, how long it took for you to prepare it from the time that you got the script to the time that you started filming.
Good question. 2016, I was attached and got into rewrites, and then February 2018. So that's
Wow.
relatively short for a development phase, but it all sort of fell into place.
I was going to say, a lot of people don't realize how long the development process can be.
Yeah,
Sometimes it
for
can
sure.
take 10 years to make a movie.
Yeah,
It's
for
insane,
sure.
you know?
Yeah.
Right over there.
What was it like getting Karen for Dave Bautista's partner?
It was great. I mean, she's fantastic. She's very funny. There was a little concern about Guardians of the Galaxy because it's Karen and it's she's not in face makeup. I thought it was an interesting thing to do, and she's a really good fighter. She worked with Eco, and I was surprised. A lot of those takes are her and not her stunt double in there. So she's she can be nicer and a great director in her own right, for sure.
Right over there. Yeah.
So when you were casting the villain, Eco, was he the number one choice, or was there anyone else?
Just Eco. I'm a massive fan of his work. I think he's like our Bruce Lee. I couldn't be more of a fan of the Raid films. And has anyone seen The Night Comes for Us? Woo! Jesus Christ. Like that fucking movie. That movie's insane. It's insane, the violence in that movie. But I find it really funny. Like I find all that, and I find it almost goes full circle to being funny again. He was my first choice, and everybody supported me with the choice. And then, very simple process. I wrote him just an email. He's the same manager, I think, or there was some connection with Dave that I just reached out to him, and I just said I'd be really interested in working with you. I think you'd be great as a villain because I've never seen you play a villain. And you have so many great villains in your movies, and to see you embrace that sort of vibe in your movies, flipping it to the other side would be really interesting. I would love to work more, and I was excited just to learn from him as a fight choreographer as well about how he does it.
Right there.
I thought the sound design was really fantastic.
Oh, thank you.
That it really, emphasized all the great action that was going on. Now, is that something that you prep for as you were making the movie, or is that something that you designed with the editing process?
It's more of a design. There's so much stuff going on as you're prepping a film, and really the sound sort of gets punted a little bit to the end. But in the same breath, once you're there, you want to make sure it's great and crisp and interesting. I'm a big fan of Foley, and I don't know if anybody's seen Goon, but my proudest moment of Goon is walking by the Foley stage and looking in and literally seeing all these crazy French Quebecois Foley artists beating a pig's head with a baseball bat. And I was like, now that's dedication. There you go.
By the way, if you haven't seen Goon, I strongly recommend it. Right there.
Yeah.
Hi, you said you do a lot of work, but does that include rehearsal time?
As much as I can get with the actors. Many times it's hard to with schedules and getting people in, but as much as I can grab, I do, because it's great just without the pressure just to read the script. Many times there's ad libs or improvs that come out of that we can then incorporate into the script again. But it's hard. It's hard with a big cast to get them all in the same room at the same time, or even two of them in the same room.
Right there.
You shot this in Atlanta and you wrapped a year ago. I know the Marvel films shoot there too, and I was just curious between Dave and Karen if their shooting schedules overlapped or he wasn't needed for like 45 days so he chose to do your movie.
Yeah, good question. I mean, we lucked out. There was a weird dip in the production where we were able to get the A crew from Atlanta. So just the time of year that we started shooting, that no Marvel I think they just wrapped
on Infinity War and took a summer break before Endgame.
Exactly. Yeah. There was some weird break where we just slipped in and were able to, but there was no.
Good timing.
Yeah, there was no conflict with their schedules at all.
I think
I remember.
I was going to say, I think we have time for just a few more questions. I'm getting the cue from Fox.
Sure.
Is there any questions in the back? Or
Here, I have a question.
Sure.
I saw the film said for Anne. Who is Anne?
Oh, Anne is my mother. She passed away 1 week into shooting, so I dedicated the film to her.
I don't know how to respond.
No need to respond.
Yeah. I apologize. It's just that. Oh, but now I can see. Is there any other questions back there? Are we all? Wait, I see one right there.
You got any funny or crazy stories of your own?
Just that a guy passed out on me. Like I was on a uphill, like a ramp onto a freeway or something, and the guy literally and then passed out, and so I jumped forward and put it into park, And I was like, "Are you okay? Wait, what's going on?" Or I tried to talk to him, and then like 30 minutes later, he just 30 seconds later, he just sort of woke up, like, ugh, and then started driving again. I was like, whoa. And he dropped me off at home and kept driving.
Uber?
Yeah, Uber. Yeah.
What, right there?
Sure.
Oh yeah, I loved his coworker, and I remember seeing him in the Netflix show.
Tatra.
American Bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
He was hilarious.
He's amazing.
Is that where you first kind of?
Yeah, for sure. Jimmy's amazing. Yeah, Jimmy's great.
He just has like the.
But Jimmy also has he was able to pull the sensitivity of that character. Like he's like really like sensitive in like a weird, totally understandable way. Yeah, Jimmy's great. Awesome. I'd love to work with Jimmy again. Yeah.
I think is there one last one back there? What was I? Yeah, right over there.
I thought this film was brilliant. Being the fact that Batista's a couple years older than me, I always think of him as kind of like inspiration for guys like us, middle age.
Yeah.
The question of masculinity, one line I take away is that real men cry.
Yeah.
And what would you, my son over here is a film student in Santa Monica, and what would you advise these young filmmakers when dealing with the subject of masculinity, because it is pretty risky.
Good question. What would I advise dealing with? I think anything, you just got to be honest about it. I think that's what people really respond to in movies is honesty, whether or not it's comedy or drama or whatever. Like it's got to be an authentic sort of feeling to it. In terms, that's case by case with masculinity. It's weird because this genre is very hyper macho, but in the same breath, I thought that gave us room to explore it in a lot of ways. I don't know. I think you got to be sensitive these days. You got to definitely understand that macho thing has a flip side to it for sure. Any film student, I'm going to answer beyond your question. Don't make a short film. Just make a feature. That's my only advice to you. Yeah, fuck shorts.
And on that note,
yep.
I'm just going to say that this movie comes out on Stuber
Yes.
comes out on Friday. It is. If you enjoy the film tonight, please go on whatever social
Yes,
channel
please do.
you're on.
Spread the word. People think it's an Uber commercial, but it's not.
Yeah, it's definitely not an Uber
Yeah.
commercial. But yeah, use Twitter's, whatever you use, and please spread the gospel. Thank you so much.
Thank you guys. Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it.
And by the way, thank you ArcLight and 20th Century Fox for teaming up.
Yes.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for coming. Cheers.